Welcome to another episode of First Step, where we get industry Bomber clot.
Let's have a drink to that one.
Oh, I think you should. Oh, you see all this elegance and radiance. I'm getting my tongue twisted. You understand?
I don't know why.
Girl. Anyway, again, welcome to First Step, where we get industry professionals, leaders in their fields, to share with us the steps they took to get them to where they are today. And with us, we have the lovely, talented, and wonderful Miss Priya Gomes Mora to share with us her journey and enlighten us on the things that she's working on, what she's going to be doing, and where she came from. So, Priya, how are you doing, my dear?
I am great. Thank you, Arion, for having me. I'm very excited to, just talk about what I do professionally and where I'm going and, hopefully to encourage, especially the youth who are not familiar with my profession, so they know that this is an option for them in the future.
Indeed, indeed. Priya, I wanna get a little background, right, and understand what is it about going into occupational therapy and what kind of personality one probably has to have to lend them to get into this kind of specific field with dealing with people because not everybody had that skill to, get involved with people and the personalities. So let me get a little background on Miss Priya Gomes Mora and what kind of mind she would have had to get her here today.
Well, I mean, honestly, growing up, I had a father who was a teacher and a mother who was a social worker. So helping in the community, you know, giving back to the community was something that we were always doing, right? Many a time I remember mommy bringing home people to help with certain activities or to, encourage starting small businesses. So kind of that was just instilled in us, I think, from a young age. I kind of knew I wanted to be in a profession where I was able to help persons. And I thought about special education or maybe child psychology. And I earned a scholarship to go to the US to study
Right.
and wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I had not heard of occupational therapy before that. And I just remember speaking to, the admin office and telling them, okay, I want to get into something where I'll be able to help people. And they suggested a couple of the departments to go and talk to.
Right.
And I met a professor, Sue Ordinette, I love to death, mentor for life. And she basically said, well, what kind of person are you? Are you, to get from A to B, they have 8 steps and you have to follow them step by step. So very organized. Or to get from A to B, you could either follow the 8 steps or you could figure out your own way and be creative. And I was like, well, that second one is definitely me. If you come up to my dorm room now, total mess.
Right.
And then she said, okay, well, that's basically PT and OT. I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. Still had no idea really what it entailed.
Right.
And it's not until I got into the program and I realized how valuable this profession is.
Right.
So I had a grandmother with Alzheimer's, and my grandfather had about 2 strokes. And I was a teenager at the time, but I remember thinking something's missing. I'm not sure. I mean, my aunt, who was the primary caregiver, was doing the best that she could given the situation. But I just remember having this feeling that something is missing.
Right.
And it's not until I got into the program and realized that your occupations have to do with everything you do on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Bathing, dressing, eating, doing your job that you get paid for, gardening, playing golf, going to a movie, your leisure activities. And it's not about stopping the activity where if somebody has an injury or disability, but it's about modifying the technique or maybe providing some type of adaptive equipment so they can still participate in the activities.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, there are so many people whom who would benefit from this occupation. And then I was thinking about my other two grandparents.
Right.
And then I was just even thinking about, maybe my nieces and nephews when they get older, if this would be established in Trinidad and Tobago by the time that they might have needed our services.
Right.
And I mean, that was it. I was sold on the profession. It was the perfect blend of science and arts in the
Right.
sense of we get to create, we get to fabricate equipment, fabricate splints. It's very social, it's very hands-on, very client-centered. No two people with the same diagnosis will ever present the same way because their occupations, what they have to do on a day-to-day basis is different.
Hmm.
So we have to, it's a partnership between the professional, the client, and a lot of the times the family, who's the support system,
Right.
making sure that we're all on
Right.
the same page so that we all working towards the same goal, which is, increasing the person's independence and essentially their quality of life.
So when you
So,
were, go ahead, you go ahead.
mhm. So, I think in this profession, you have to have patience, um, you have to have a natural instinct for wanting to help people.
Right.
I mean, I think obviously there are people who could get into this profession and learn certain tools and skills,
Right.
but I think it's so much easier and so much more rewarding when it's something that you want to do,
Right.
like you're passionate about. So for me, I mean, I am very passionate about what I do and the clients that I work with.
Right.
So I enjoy working. I
Yeah.
enjoy interacting with them.
A lot of times you find you might, because I actually was speaking to a friend of mine, who actually I interviewed for the same first step. Not really a friend, an acquaintance, and
Right.
he was saying that as a young person, you don't really know exactly what it is you really want to do, at that
Right.
time, and then but somehow things kind of it start to unfold for you as you go along, and sometimes you might think, I might want to do this or do that just for the, I guess, for the, I don't know, the shine of it, because everybody say, yeah, I'm gonna be a doctor, I'm gonna be a lawyer.
Right. And that's what we grew up knowing. Doctor,
Exactly.
lawyer, teacher,
Right.
that's typically what we grew up thinking of. And I
Exactly.
mean, in 2020, in this age of technology and
Yeah.
entrepreneurship and just so many other combinations of jobs or skills that could work together to create a different avenue,
Yeah.
that's, I think, what is important. I mean, I worked in the States for about 5 years after graduating, and at the hospital we would get invitations to go and do career days, not at secondary school or university, I mean at elementary and Montessori levels.
Wow. Okay.
And obviously with little kids, you're not talking as much, you might be doing more, show and tell,
Right.
but you're trying to spark something in their head from that early age. Because I mean, if you think about Trinidad and Tobago, we do these subjects in secondary school, and then form 3 you pick a grouping of subjects that
Right.
kind of push you or narrow you into a direction.
Right.
And a lot of the times when I do career day in Trinidad, it's usually at that form 3 level. But I remember me at form 3, there were subjects I didn't like and I didn't
Right.
think I was going to do,
Right.
period.
Right.
So I was not putting the effort into those subjects. And so I think, when we have career days, it needs to start from just primary school level
Right. Right.
minimum.
Yeah.
Because you want these children to understand that there are other professions out there outside of the typical ones,
Hmm.
that you never know what these combination of subjects could evolve into eventually,
Right.
right?
It's very
Other
true.
than the sciences, languages, business.
Hmm.
This is a combination. There's so many jobs that it's combining all of these or certain subjects now.
So I want to get idea of, now that you have, so you went through secondary, I mean university, right? And you were almost kind of narrowed down to to determine exactly what might be a fit for you by Miss
Right.
Sue. Is Miss Sue right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Moving on from there, was there any point that you were kind of doubting that, probably Priya Gill, something ain't working, ain't feeling right here, or it was always like, nah, boy, there's this spot for me from.
I mean, I would say that I am lucky. Probably I'm blessed. Probably because the minute I got into the curriculum and realized in terms of the types of clients I could work with,
Right.
in terms of types of settings that I can work within, it was just straight, it was gone.
Yeah.
I was
Wow.
sold. I was sold. There was no change in it. I mean, as occupational therapist, when you graduate from a program, you basically have to do about 2 to 3 long-term internships. And, that could range from NICU, so premature babies,
Wow.
all the way to hospice care, persons who are on their way out,
Wow.
right? So it's not just hospitals. I mean, we can see clients in the community. We can do assessments with children who may have a disability in the school system to work with the teacher to make sure that, or to try and give that student the opportunity to still learn at the level, quote unquote, normal children do. It's to
Right.
lessen the gap of their developmental delays.
Wow.
We work with architects in terms of designing buildings to make it accessible for persons with disabilities,
Wow.
right? So there isn't an area we don't work in, and it's not just physical disabilities. We work with mental health disorders, so bipolar, depression, schizophrenia. So it's really diverse, and a lot of people, based on their internships, might find an area of practice that they kind of head towards. And
Right.
for me, although I did both pediatric and adult internships, my first job out of university was at an adult geriatric hospital.
Right.
And so for 5 years,
And this is
I
and
got
this is
to
in the
work.
US.
Yes.
Right.
And 5 years in Maryland, I got to work the different units of that hospital:
Right.
accident and emergency, inpatient, rehab. And so when I returned home in 2009, there were only about 6 or 7 occupational therapists, and
Right.
only one was really doing adult geriatrics. So I said, okay, well, this is already an area that I know. I'm
Right.
gonna stick with what I know, and build my brand there. And when I first came home, I actually worked at St. Anne's Psychiatric Hospital for a short stint.
Okay.
And
What was that experience like though? 'Cause a lot of people say when you're around mad people, for quote unquote, I don't know if that might be a sensitive term.
we're not going to use, we're going to say mental health,
All right. People who may have mental
mental
health
health disorder,
challenges,
right? Challenges.
right? You yourself could go mad. You yourself could have mental health challenges as well.
Okay. When you work with soca artists, do you start to sing soca?
I
No,
no, I
no.
no,
Otherwise, you no.
no. So
So I
yeah,
mean, and that's
yeah.
part
Okay.
of the issues we have locally, in that we have all of these preconceived notions about mental health, or just disorders and diagnosis in general.
Right,
Um, I mean, St. Anne's was fine. I was able to work with patients who were in the wards, as well as we would have outpatients who would come back to St. Anne's maybe once or twice a week for therapy.
right,
And unfortunately, while I was at St. Anne's, I was also working part-time as an outpatient clinic. And that started my need there started to increase. And
oh,
I eventually had to make a decision
okay,
as to which direction to go in. I wasn't able to facilitate. I wasn't able at the time to facilitate both
both,
anymore.
right,
And I made a decision to go into private care at an outpatient facility, which I appreciated. And I worked there for about 5 years before deciding, well, okay, Priya, time to make a change, time to be a boss and take that leap of faith
and
and
your thing.
open my own business. I mean, I
But
had been encouraged by clients family, friends previously, but we get complacent and we have that safety net,
Yes, you're getting a
and we
comfort
just
zone.
kind of go with the flow. And luckily, a couple of things kind of changed at the time, which I think was just the perfect little kick in my butt to say, let's do this.
Right.
And then, Adrian found a place just randomly, and I checked it out. And I was like, perfect, we're doing this. And that was the beginning of prehab services.
Wow. And what year was this?
That was 2015.
Wow. So I try now to determine, which happens to a lot of people, what would have been if you could share the circumstance a little bit that would have forced you now to act on this little seed that was planted in the back of your brain
Right,
and start to nurture it and bring it to
right.
fruition.
Well, unfortunately or fortunately for me,
Yeah.
the company that I was working with were redoing contracts.
Oh, okay.
And my dad was in HR at the time. And after discussing, this new contract with him, it really didn't seem to be in my favor.
Okay. Okay.
There were certain restrictions being, implemented that didn't sit too well with me. And that was it. I said, no other time but now.
Right.
And I did not have, the egg nest savings waiting for this opportunity.
Right.
I did not have, you know, the portfolio or the book of, okay, well, this is what needs to happen step by step for you to open your business.
Right.
But I literally just dove into it. Um, One of my dad's friends, luckily, is a custom helping person set up businesses.
Okay.
And Dave, thank you very much, Dave Griffith, helped me fill out all of the paperwork. He went to legal affairs, registered the company, gave advice on certain steps to follow.
Right.
And that was it. I mean, it was sink or swim.
Right.
At that point, I think it was sink or swim. And I think with my personality and the support that I have from my village, I don't think I would have sunk.
Sunk.
I think I was going to swim, or I was going to figure out how to swim
Right.
regardless.
Right.
Like, too many people sacrifice for me to go to university,
Hmm.
to do all of the things that I've done in life, for me not to fulfill what I think is my passion.
I got you. So as you touched on personality now, and what type of personality you think, or what are the attributes of your personality that lend you so well to doing this, to going through this career path in dealing with people and providing these therapy services and those things.
Well, the good thing about, occupational therapy is that as much as you learn about, the science parts of it, you have to know about the anatomy,
Uh,
kinesiology, how the body operates. You also do psychology courses as well, etc. And it's a matter of merging those because, as I said, you're not just working with a client. And I mean, I can do an assessment with a client and I see certain limitations that I think they should work on. However, if the client doesn't think those things are important, you're not going to get buy-in from the client.
right.
So it's, it's a marriage of goals by the therapist, by the client, and also to get the family involved so that they are supportive. So, I mean, I think my personality is very bubbly. I mean, I, for the most part, think that I'm very positive and fun and outgoing. And so I have chosen to work with the adult geriatric population. I mean, I love my elder clients, my elderly clients. There's so much wisdom wrapped into their brain from having lived decades
Right.
on this earth. And so to me, it's you what we call it therapeutic use of self, being able to use yourself to connect with that client so that we all trying to achieve the same goal. I can't tell you go and do X. I think X and Y is important, and you're telling me no, A and B. Then we will never work towards the same goals.
Right.
So, I mean, I try to use my personality. I try to connect with them. I try to find out the things that are important to them, the things they need, want, and are expected to do. And I try to make my sessions, especially with my elderly clients, fun and functional.
Right.
I mean, it's very boring to, okay, we're working on shoulder range of motion. Let's do this 10 times. All right, that's not
Yeah.
fun. I
Yeah.
put on a little music and I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, and we roll into the left.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Or maybe it's somebody who used to be a hairdresser.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, let's think about what you used to use that hand to do, holding a scissors and multitasking and fine motor control. So I take the things, the occupations that the client is familiar with, enjoys doing,
Mm.
and I make it part of the therapy session. So there's always an end goal that they can see versus, okay, I want you to reach to the ceiling
Right.
for it.
Right. Right.
That's
Right.
not fun at all. And then, it's different, I think, for them. And so there's a level of trust that is built. I mean, not every day is a great day. I mean, I have clients who are obviously a lower level and it's going to take a longer journey to see progress. And there are days that it's a bit heavy, that I need to unwind, and it's important for me to have some type of avenue to just be able to release as well, because you don't want to go from client to client and there's a heaviness following you, whether you're not seeing the progress as quickly as you want,
Right.
whether you're disappointed in something that you hoped you would have achieved by now. So it's a balance. It's finding a balance between being realistic
Right.
but still giving hope. I mean, there's no false hope given to clients. That's the worst thing we can do, and we learn that from very early in school. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you if you do these exercises for 3 weeks, you're going to be cured. Doesn't work like that
Right.
at all.
Well,
It's based on progress.
is it? I mean, I realize sometimes though your words and you're probably seeing something in the person could help, as I guess you said it earlier, and could help them realize better or greater things from
Right.
themselves. So sometimes I just feel like I just kind of paint a unrealistic picture at times. I don't know, to fool the person. At least like with my kids, I think anything is possible. And
Right.
that's why I try to teach them. But sometimes you just had to kind of paint some super unrealistic pictures, which probably is me looking at it that way. But
And I mean, it can work depending, I think, on the situation we're in.
right,
But definitely, I wouldn't necessarily do it with some of my clients just
right,
because they have gone through something traumatic. It's a change in their lifestyle. Maybe they're now living with children because they can't be on their own right now. So somebody's telling them when to bathe, when to dress, when to eat. They were bosses for 70, 80, 90 years,
right,
right? And now everything has turned. So you still want them to have some autonomy, to have some type of authoritative response. So
right,
there's a way of wording or suggesting activities that they could technically, you know, initiate or say to the caregiver or the family member, well, let's do this today. Or, I think I want to go and bathe before I have breakfast, etc. In your head, we want to accomplish this.
right.
But me coming to tell a 80 and a 90-year-old, let's do this, let's do that.
Yeah.
How dare me? Like, I mean, I just think of my grandmother, and she would probably watch me like,
Who you feel with?
precisely, who do
Uh,
you feel you are?
right.
Now you have to be serious. So it's a matter of kind of finagling your way, you know, addressing it a different way. So
Yeah.
much so that they pretty much offer up the solution that you really wanted, to
Yeah.
get to at
Right.
the
I
end of
get
the
you.
day. And it's a matter of respect as well. As I said, my elderly clients, 70, 80, 90, they have lived. and they have so much to share. So working with them is almost as therapeutic for them as it is to me, because as we're working, I absorb in everything they're listening. We're talking about stories. I see, I have a little 94-year-old right now. She was a hairdresser. Well, I cut off my hair recently, so I said, listen, now she has a fractured hand, so we're working on strength and movement.
Right.
So I said, listen, you think you can cut my hair? She's like, yes. I said, well, can you do it with one hand? She's like, no. I said, all right, so I need you working on your exercises. I need you doing your coloring. I need you squeezing, because you can't zug up my head. You can't zug up my head,
Right,
you know.
right.
So it's finding things that they could connect to. And she's the sweetest little thing the other day. I mean, I posted a video the other day with Jerusalem. Her
Oh
son
yeah,
was
I saw that
there
video
for
when
the
you were doing
session.
the exercises
Right.
and
Her
hands
son
up
was
and
there for
thing.
the session, and I put on some music, and well, she can stand, but we had just finished a little jam session, just some soca chipping
Right,
down the road.
right,
So I said, okay, let's sit down and let's do this activity. And you get them, involved, and they're not seeing it necessarily as exercising. Now
right.
I still getting them to work on exactly what I wanted to work on for the
Right.
day, but they seen it as
Yeah,
fun and movement and
right.
dancing. And now obviously every session is not fun and movement and dancing, but it's somehow connecting whatever your activity or your goal is for that day to something that is meaningful to them, and then not looking at the overall end goal, breaking them up into smaller goals, so that
Right.
with each small goal that they accomplish, motivation goes up, self-esteem goes up. They're seeing the progress versus a goal that seems so far-fetched to them that all of that they only consume with the end goal. So it's
Wow.
just breaking it up into smaller pieces for
It's
them.
so
Yeah.
Priya, I wanna get a little dig a little deeper in your in your business, so to speak.
Mhm.
Um, has there ever been any instances that proved to be like super challenging for you in your through your course or life itself that could have kind of pulled you away from your path then? And had you kind of almost throw a whole spoke in your wheel then and kind of just mash up the whole operation? Is there an instant where you really were kind of def, just totally
You said,
this year messed
um,
up to and had to bring yourself
well,
back?
I mean, there are small instances, and that more relates to clients and how they're progressing and their expectations and my expectations. Um, Sometimes that heaviness can be a little deflating. Am I doing enough? Is this really what I should be doing?
Right.
So every now and then you have that little, second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
But then you have, on the other hand, you have clients who are progressing quicker than expected, or maybe even not progressing as quickly, but their spirit is there, and that kind of balances it off. And I just have to be realistic with myself, knowing that I can't fix everybody. My goal is not to fix people. My
Right.
goal is to increase their independence and quality of life. And that doesn't necessarily mean getting back to how we were 100%.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that you can't still be functional at 70% or at 60%. If your goal is to be able to do X and you don't recover fully, but I could get you doing X, then you've achieved your goal.
Right.
So that, well, I mean, I guess this pandemic
Oh,
has been a hitter for
yeah, for
many of
most.
us, especially business owners.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I would say prior to this pandemic, I am passionate about what I do, but I don't know if I had all of the skills or the steps for running a business.
Right, right. I got you.
Luckily, Georgina Terry, who had done a triathlon with our OT association years ago, she is like a life coach, a business coach for women especially, and she had a program called um, Entrepreneurship Beginners, like a beginners program. And I decided, you know what, I have to invest in myself.
Definitely.
I mean, I could try and trek along and figure it out on my own, or I could invest and get some tools and some leadership and some skills to make this a better business for me.
Right.
And that's probably one of the best decisions I made as a business owner
Right.
going through this program. There's certain things we don't necessarily think of. And the thing is, most of the people, the class was small, but most of the people who were doing that program were now thinking of starting a
Business.
business.
Right.
And here I was already
Anything.
in the business and not realizing, wow, there were certain things I probably should have considered before. But you remember I said, this decision to go into the business was kind of forced a little, although it was something I was thinking of for a
Right.
long time, kept putting in the
Right.
back of my head.
Right. So
So
it's not
this,
like you had a big set of time to pre-plan and set things up. Right.
right,
I got
you should have X amount of money saved for
you.
certain bills when you're
Right.
starting off on your own, rent and this and that, expenses, and then, starting up your website and um, all of the different things that really go into making your business successful for a long time versus successful for a short time, and you don't have all the processes in place, and you fold in 2 years or 3 years.
Right. Right.
So this program, this entrepreneurship beginning builders program, um, was very insightful, a little overwhelming, because I remember a couple of classes I'd be in there, and I'm just like, my God, what did I get myself into? Like, can I really do this on my own? You know. And I remember my brother-in-law telling me as well, he's like, you could be great at what you do and not be a good businesswoman.
And that is very
Or you
true.
might realize, yeah, you want to be a great businesswoman, but now you have to bring in people into the professional, the OT side of it. And I thought about that. But then I realized I really love what I do, being the
Right.
occupational therapist. So if it's anything, I will need to bring in, and don't be afraid to bring in those persons where this is their passion,
Right.
whether it's IT, whether it's accounting,
I got
that
you.
is not for me. I realized that I like the professional part of my business, which is the occupational therapy. And I've realized that it's okay to have other people helping with the business aspect of it.
Indeed.
Because sometimes it can be a little overwhelming to be the provider and the business, run the
Yes,
business
man. Yes,
aspect.
it is. It
So I'm
is. That's.
providing services and I love doing that. But they see that running the business aspect, yes, I know what needs to be done, but
Yeah.
it's not necessary for me.
'Cause
That's not fun for me.
I totally understand where you're coming from, Gil. Totally, because I actually have similar battles to face at times. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to now get into how you then not necessarily pivoted, because I'm assuming the new the I would say what the budding artistic expression that came out though. How was that, and what was that laying dormant for a while, or it was something you always used to?
Listen, that was dormant. That was dormant really for about 20 years.
Wow, that
I
was
did art,
almost totally
I did
gone.
art in secondary school
Right.
for CXC and A levels, although I did not finish A levels. I earned my scholarship and I convinced my parents, hey, let me go and work and save some money. And of course, they fell for that. But anyways, over the years, I would buy paint, I'd buy charcoal, and that was about it. It would just get put aside. Different things would come up. Whether it was my love for football, getting back into football, whether it was lineman, I like to socialize. So playing pool, playing cards, just out and about. So getting back into the art always took a back seat. Now, over the years, obviously, I would have friends who, whether it was a baby shower or a bachelorette party, you know, they would ask, or birthday party, they would ask me to, just help with deco or to
Right.
do certain things. And I mean, I have fun with that. I mean, it was a piece of cake,
Mm-hmm.
but really getting back into it just didn't happen. Always have an excuse or, you know, procrastinating, which I'm unfortunately really good at. And then when
You're not on
COVID
your
hit,
own, darling.
that we are our worst enemies.
Listen.
And then COVID hit, the pandemic, and in March I closed the business down for a couple months,
Mm-hmm.
based on some advice from a doctor, colleague of mine, because we didn't know at that time really
What
what
was
was
going
happening, what was
on? Right.
going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And with me working with the adult elderly population, my elders are high risk.
Very much
Last
so.
thing I wanted to do was to take or to contract and pass on.
Mm-hmm.
And so right before, March, mid-March when we closed, I said, okay, well, I'll be home doing nothing. Let me go get a little pack of paints. I got a little 24 tubes that big like a finger,
Right.
some cheap paint brushes, some small canvases. And I said, okay, that's what I'll do. Find something to pass the time. And, art 20 years ago in secondary school is so totally different from what the students are exposed to now. I mean, I go to
Yeah.
Holy Names Form 5 and Form 6 art exhibition every year, and I'm just blown away by the level, the skills, the medium that they get to use now.
Wow.
Back in my day, it was charcoal, oil, watercolor, basically,
Right.
graphic design, landscape, portraits, or some one other thing. You had to choose 2 out of 4.
Right.
Now they're doing everything: sculpting, batiks. I mean,
Wow.
everything. Working in such a wide variety of media, tiles, paints, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, in the beginning of COVID, I would literally just YouTube and Google techniques and different types of paints and mediums
Mm-hmm.
and how to get this effect. And I just started to just dabble a little. And, I said, okay, I'm going to post a couple on Facebook.
Right. Right.
And, like in 2 weeks, I had somebody, hey, you selling these? I was like,
Are you serious?
wait a minute, what? Somebody's willing to buy it.
Right.
Okay. Okay, Priya. And now it was the whole spin on, okay, I'm not an artist per se.
Right.
I didn't consider myself an artist.
Right.
Um, how do I even come up with a figure? How do I charge for these?
Right.
So I reached out to two friends of mine, an old client, James Armstrong, who is an artist, brilliant artist, and just got some suggestions and some feedback from them. And kind of just went along with that. And I mean, I reopened prehab in May, and which was about 2 months home, and I had probably had about 30 pieces
Are
done
you
by then.
serious?
I mean, literally, Arion, 5:30, and my sleeping was off. So 5:30, I would get up.
Mm.
I'm not on my own. I just couldn't sleep anymore.
Right.
I'd make some coffee, go out in the gallery, have some coffee, and literally just Google. I had 2 Caribou stag crates outside with a Lost Tribe placard thing from Carnival that I
Right.
put over it. And that was my makeshift table
Wow.
every day, all day.
Wow.
Sun come out, I'd come inside, chill, go back out in the evening. And I mean, I think I've always been creative. I
Mm.
mean, I used to, Carnival time, I decorated in about 8 or 9 of our booths. You
Right.
know, we doing somebody makeup before the last couple of years when you had to go and get makeup done
Yeah, yeah,
now.
you want
But
to go and get your
prior,
face beat
10,
out,
20
right?
years ago, we were doing our own things.
Right.
So I think I'm very creative. And so I kind of just used the opportunity to kind of just express what I was feeling at the time,
Mm-hmm.
or things that I was hopeful for or trying to stay positive, because there were times between March and May, you have rent at the office to pay, you're not working.
Mm-hmm.
Rent at home, light bill, WASA,
Yeah.
all your bills still there,
Mm-hmm.
your annuities, all of those things
Everything.
are still there. Um, so there were times where, I'd find myself a little heavy, a little sad,
I feel
eyes watering,
mm-hmm.
in the morning, and Adrian would come outside, and I'm like, just one of those moments, and he knows me, and he knows how I am with my clients as well,
Right,
how
right.
I connect with them. So even during that time that the office was closed, I tried to offer like virtual sessions to my clients,
Okay.
because I didn't really want them to,
Regress.
regress.
Mm-hmm.
And, but some of my home clients, because I see clients at the office and at home, and some of my home clients are a little lower level. So it means, getting either a caregiver or family member to kind of do the exercises with
Right,
me.
right.
But yeah, every day I'd be out there drinking my coffee and just painting. And then, you know, um, James told me, okay, Priya, enough with the small canvases. You need to buy some bigger canvases,
Ah,
even if it's 10 by 10s or 20, 12 by 12. And you need to just start to just go
yeah.
bigger and see what evolves.
Right.
And, that's basically what I did. I said, my dad's very handy. I said, hey, buddy, I need an easel. As a professional, this is for body mechanics and ergonomics here.
I hear you.
I'm going to have back problems. I needed to build me an easel,
Right,
right? I needed to build me a spinner thing. It was, it's a piece of plywood on a spinner so that I could do whatever with my paint.
right.
Keep doing, you know. Mommy is really into art.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, we need to frame these. And I'm like, frame? I have not been working since March, right? Yeah, these need to frame. I'm going to help you. I'm like, okay. The first day we went to frame them at Horizons, we
Uh-huh.
framed about 24 pieces.
Wow.
I ain't gonna lie, mommy was right. They look totally different
In the
framed. They
frames.
look completed.
Right.
And I posted, and some friends, my little sister, some friends encouraged me, you need to start a social media page,
Uh,
Instagram and Facebook, a page or album.
mm-hmm.
You can't just be posting on your Priya Gomes page. And so that's how PGM Art was now born.
Right.
It's really just my initials, Priya Gomes Mora Art.
Right.
So I started an Instagram page, I started a Facebook page, and I started to post them there. And as I said, the art is meaningful to me. So I either made up verses or quotations that reflected what I saw. And art is subjective.
It is.
5 of us to look at a piece of art and see something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of felt, because they meant something and I had an idea with them, I would either find songs or poems, or I would make up something um, that kind of went with what I wanted to depict. Now, if it connected with you, great, which luckily it had. For many of the pieces connected with people, or they saw something in it,
Right.
whether it was a struggle they were going through.
Right.
And I started to sell pieces, and that started to supplement my income, because even though I have started back at work at prehab,
Mm-hmm.
business is not the same. You
Right.
know, um, the office is very slow.
Mm-hmm.
Home clients, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to, that's an expense as well, because I have to buy for some of my clients. I'm in PPE, I'm in my gongs, gloves, mask, etc., disposable stuff that I get rid of, because again, I still not taking that chance of going by a client and then possibly passing
Yes.
on, or
Yes. Yeah.
get contracting something from a client or
Right.
the caregivers there. So even though business has picked up, but not as, not pre-COVID,
Before. Right. Yeah.
the art has been supplementing some of the income.
Oh, that's excellent.
But I've realized, and I made a conscious effort, that even though prehab started back in May, I was going to make the time now to have it part of my weekly routine. So on the days that I work early, I come home and I start my art one time,
Wow.
and
Is is
you know,
it is it a lot of times because I mean being creative is such a it's almost like a bit of therapy in itself as well, you know?
that definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely therapeutic. I mean, I suffer with migraines,
Right.
and there was a piece, you know, I started when I had a migraine, and I said, you know what, I actually want to see what this is going to evolve into with a migraine.
Yeah.
Because not all of the times if I have a migraine, I'm like flat out on a bed.
Right.
But there's sometimes that I'm in that room and I don't come out for 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
And I kind of just wanted to see what would what the expression would be.
Right.
And it was actually a piece that I kind of liked in terms of it was kind of blue and purple, some colorful, but with like some black lines over it.
Uh-huh.
And to me, like the black represented that pain, whatever struggle we're going through. But because you could see the color underneath, to me, that was still us pushing through or shining through whatever the
Right.
difficult situation was. So, I mean, with my art, I think it's as much as it's still me learning about technique and myself and evolving. Um, it's kind of nice having, friends and acquaintances go through part of the process with me because they're seeing me evolving from my first little whatever in March to
Right.
my recent pieces, which are a lot bigger.
Yeah,
You know,
I've seen a couple that you would have posted and sent to me. And one that really stood out to me was I think it's the mirror. Is it mirror you call it?
reflection.
Reflections, yeah. And I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
that was really it so me with I guess I really have a great appreciation for art. I'm not painting nothing or drawing nothing though. But it looked really sophisticated, but I said, but this lady
why?
really
Thank
got
you.
going on.
Why? Thank you. And you know what? I posted that, and I mean, there were four different interpretations. Like
Exactly.
somebody said it looked like Diwali and Christmas lights, rain falling at that time.
Right.
Um, Arion saw like a boardroom table, like a dining room table with people in the center
Uh-huh.
and the room opening wider, you
Yeah.
know. And, as people talk and they tell you what they see, you could, oh, okay, did not see that before. Now I'm seeing.
Right.
So, I mean, art is subjective and people are either going to like it or not like it. They're going to connect or not connect. So, my goal is that whatever I produce, hopefully it connects with
Some.
somebody and, you
Yeah.
know, they would want it for, their home or their office, like that orange wall behind you,
Oh,
you know,
it might look.
that looking kind of bare.
Yeah, Gil. Good plug, though. It easy, boy. The consummate
Hey.
businesswoman looking for it. I can respect that. All right, Priya. So I'm going through my routine questions now, which are
Right.
there are two, right? The first one being you, Priya Gomes Mora, now in 2020, having gone through a life of experiences, going back in the figurative time machine to 15-year-old Priya, right? Just after she finished CXC or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and training up the parents not to do A levels and go and work or whatever. What what advice would you have given her, if any at all, on her journey stepping forward into becoming?
I would really tell her, I mean, there's not much I would change, and I think that had to do with like my upbringing in terms of just being open to new experiences. I mean, growing up, my parents took us all over Trinidad and Tobago to learn about sailor dance, the bad dance for carnival. We learned, we would hike from Covine into Macquarie, Diwali, Eid, Hoseh. We were exposed
Everywhere.
to a lot growing up. And I remember my dad saying when I went to university that he wasn't worried about, you know, me because of my personality, and he know that I would make it, I would survive wherever, because going away on your own is never an easy thing, and especially if you don't have a lot of family close to where you're going to.
Indeed.
I would just tell my 15-year-old self, enjoy life to the fullest. Find your passion. And luckily, I found it when I did. But I would tell her, don't settle until you found your passion. Because I think if you are just doing something to pay bills and you're not enjoying, psychologically, that kills us quicker than doing something we're passionate about and possibly not earning as much as we could be.
Indeed.
But I would just tell her, enjoy the ride. I mean, anything that you could be exposed to, take advantage of that opportunity, because there's a learning experience in everything, and it's going to help you on the road to figuring out who you need to become.
Wow. So I think she did a pretty good job, that young Priya.
I mean, I think so too. I wouldn't change it. You go through your ups and downs.
Yeah.
No life, no journey is just smooth and
No.
all happy go lucky.
Right.
I mean, there are ups and downs, but I think those downs help. If you take them as a learning experience, they build character, and it's either what mistake not to make again, although we do sometimes make it again, and we have to kind of learn.
Yeah.
But it also just it thickens you up. It makes you stronger, and it makes you, to me, more prepared for whatever
That's,
might come your way. And nothing's just handed to you on a silver platter. So you have to just. But while you're doing it, though, I think it's so important to just enjoy life. Like, enjoy life. There's so many people just walking around here, just so heavy and worrying about things that sometimes are out of their control. I mean, and I'm not saying not be realistic. And I mean, I'm a Pisces, so yeah, I might be that dreamer.
right.
But I also think that that life could be so heavy that we have to find the little positives to look forward to keep going. I mean, sometimes it's a song, sometimes it's just seeing an innocent bystander smiling at you. Sometimes these simple things. And I think those things are important to just give you purpose and to bring you back to reality. Because you just never know when is your time. And if we keep waiting for the moment, life won't pass you by.
Wow. It's true. But seeing that you answered that so eloquently, I'm going to throw a next curveball at you before I get
All
my
right.
last question. Seeing that you're exposed to so many um, mature people, elderly people, some in the 90s and all of that, what lessons have you learned from them? Or if there was anyone in particular that stood out to you that kind of say, hey, this speaking to my boy. Or
Done.
generally just
There,
for you to pick up.
there are lots. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I when I say love, I love my elderly clients. I mean, Christmas Day by my grandmother's open house.
Yeah.
I have brought home. I had a 90-something-year-old client. Rest in peace. She died earlier this year. But I had a client maybe 2 Christmases ago. Her family is away, and she was up and mobile and driving prior to her incident. And I was offering to take her to church with her wheelchair or the walker. And she's like, no, I don't want anybody to see me like this. And I said, okay, which church you usually go to? We could find another church in Diego Martin. No, 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 no. So I'm like, you know what? I talked to the daughter and I said, we need to get her out and about. My house is an open house at Christmas time. Can I bring her there? Brought her home. My brother and them were cooking. One of his friends had to bring a little bell and start to play by her. And she sat down in the chair, shaking the little shoulders. So, I mean, I just think of how I would want my grandparents treated. And my grandmother is full of wisdom. All of my grandparents were full of wisdom. Totally different people,
Right.
4 different personalities.
Personalities.
And so I take every opportunity to absorb, whether it's advice on banking, whether it's a problem that I have that I might share with them. There's one client that I don't see anymore, but I used to call her my therapist,
Right.
because her situation, she could have easily been very down and depressed. And I remember pulling her aside on the road, and I didn't get on to Adrian, I didn't get on to any of my parents, and I called her next. I mean, and I was crying. I mean, I was crying because it was just heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And my client was not having a good day and they were crying. And I said, Jennifer, how do you do this? How are you always so positive given your situation? And, she basically said, listen, I could look at my situation and be very down and depressed. But how is that going to help my family who is trying to help me?
Mm.
How is that going to help my grandchildren who I live with, who have to interact with me? I could, but that's not going to be beneficial to anybody.
Right.
And that little piece of advice was, what I needed to hear from her at that time,
Mm.
because it just made me think of, I can't help everybody recover 100%, but that doesn't mean 10, 15, 30% gains is not significant for them
Right.
and not what they need at that time. So it's just finding that balance between knowing that I can't help everybody
Mm-hmm.
recover 100%, but knowing that if I just give my 100% and stay connected with them, and I can't be fake with my clients. That is
Right.
the one thing I'm not going to fake it with you. I don't know how to do that with
You
my
fake.
client.
Right. Right.
I don't. And I'm buffing you. I'll buff you, in a smart kind of way, because I
Right.
want you to do X, Y, and Z,
Mm-hmm.
and I need you motivated.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, any stories my clients share, I mean, they know about back in the day when this was just this, and
Right.
when they didn't have a highway here, and we used to just have Coke and ice cream at this one place, wherever, and that was a treat. Coke
Wow.
and I just take it in, I absorb it, and a lot of our elders
Mm-hmm.
just, they need companionship as much as
Right.
they need a caregiver or a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
It's really that companionship. A
Wow.
lot of their loved ones, their spouses, or their friends have passed on,
Mm-hmm.
and they might be living with family who work in children at school, so a lot of times they're on their own, alone.
Yeah.
So really, just as a caregiver, my advice to caregivers would be, yes, you do there to do a job, but you would benefit much more and connect much more with a client if you just engage and interact with them.
That's really nice. That's beautiful. I really like that. Last question, which is everybody again had to get this one. I call it the playbook, right?
Play.
The playbook, and that this those would be the steps you take, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how much ever, to get you to realizing your definition of success in whatever field it could be. So, if you
Right.
want to be specific to occupational therapy or
Right.
generalize it, what would be your playbook?
I think my playbook would be to, one, be open to experiences, to opportunities. Even if you don't think it's something that you're totally interested in,
Right.
there's something to learn from it, whether it's a skill, there's something to learn from it. And so by, being involved, you're not giving up, right? So be exposed to just a variety of things. Don't be hell bent on one idea, because life is fluid, it could change. So be exposed to as much as possible. Try to figure out what you might be passionate about, whether science is, whether it's helping people, whether I love working with my hands, I like building things. Find out what you might be passionate about, and then try to reach out to those who are in that field, to just, even if it's just to volunteer one day a month, to
Mm-hmm.
get an idea of what they go through. Because a lot of times we have an idea of what something is going to be. And then when we start doing it, we realize, oh, this is
It's not
totally not what I expected. I don't like this.
right.
Volunteer. A lot of companies, a lot of professionals are willing to take on volunteers to just expose them to the profession.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even just talking about my profession alone, but just in general.
Mm-hmm.
Find what you're passionate about. Seek guidance from those who are experts in the field.
Right.
So you could just get an idea of, well, maybe this is something that I'm interested in. And then do your research, find out what's available locally, what's online. Do I need to go abroad to study this? Um, and then it's really just starting. I mean, I've been stealing Adrian's line from his first step interview
Uh,
about just being willing to start. I
that's
mean, really and truly, it's just being about willing to
just
start,
that. Yeah.
to just go and figure out, make your way along the way. You don't have to have all of the answers and all of the steps mapped out before. That's not my personality, period.
Right.
You know, I'm not that organized. But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean that I can't be successful figuring it out
As
along the
you're
way, which
moving.
is actually OT. Look at how it tie back into OT. Figuring it out along the way.
Wow.
Sometimes, yes, it's good to have an idea and a skeleton,
Right.
but don't be afraid if you fall off the path to check out something else and see where it may take you, and then realize, okay, while I'm getting back here, I could bring in some of the
This.
tools or skills I just learned from going off path.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't think it's a set, you know, rule book on
Right.
how to be successful.
Indeed.
To me, I tie in success with what you love and loving what you do.
True.
That's a hashtag I use all the time. Do what you love and love what you do.
Mm.
Because then it will never be work. It will never feel like a job where you're coming home and you're like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
today was so, and I need to. It's something that you will be interested in doing daily, and it will be something that you'll be interested in expanding in terms of continuing ed so that you're always staying relevant in whatever field that you're in. If it's something you're passionate about, you will want to be the best at whatever it is. Not competing with others. They have enough, they have enough to go around for all of us. So
Indeed.
not necessarily competing, but being the best you that you could be in whatever profession it is.
That's beautiful, Mrs. Priya Gomes
Thank
Mora.
you.
And for those who don't know, this lovely lady here is the wife of my good partner, Mr. Arion Don Mora, who we had on first step, you know, spilling the guts. So,
Yes,
and
that
she
was
was,
that was really enlightening. It was
yeah.
I was really glad to see. I mean, as much as I know a good bit of it, it
Hmm.
was really just good to see him telling his story and sharing his story. So I thank you for that as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks for prettying him up because he come in there looking sharp like a razor. So, and I
But
know you,
I have to do my little piece there.
of course, of course. Where would we be without our ladies? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say Mrs. Mora, Mrs. Gomes Mora, thank you so much for taking the time. You know,
Thank you for having me. I
you're very welcome.
appreciated the opportunity to talk a little bit about occupational therapists, about
Hmm.
the profession. It's not a very known profession in Trinidad and
No, it
Tobago.
isn't.
Only maybe about 32, 33 of us,
Wow.
but it's definitely a profession that is worth exploring. So thanks for the opportunity to share that and, to share my budding, my emerging artistic abilities as well.
Indeed, indeed.
And as I said, find your passion and just don't be afraid to start.
Yeah. Where would people be able to get in contact with you professionally for who may require your services?
Right. So on Facebook, you can look up Prehab Services, Prehab Services Limited. On Facebook or Instagram, you can email prehabservices@gmail.com, or you can find me personally, Priya Gomes Mora, on Facebook. Send me a message, and I can get back to you. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Mrs. Mora, Mrs. Gomes
Thank you
Mora,
so much.
thank
I
you very
appreciate
much,
it.
darling. I really enjoyed it, and I had
You're most
again you missed us some old talk now. Tell him you're coming very close on his heels in terms of quality interviewing.
well. Listen, I think after 11 plus years, I should have
Yeah, you
something to
should
be
have picked up
proud of, right?
something. Wow,
So
it's
if at
11
least
plus
my
years.
good looks and aesthetic,
Uh,
rubbing off on him, at least let me get a little bit
something
of
to do.
his,
Oh wow.
tone and diction and
Mm,
intonation.
there you go. There
I
you go.
have to represent.
And swag, that's it. All right, babe. Thank you again, Priya. Have a wonderful
No
evening, babe.
problem. You're
Be
most welcome.
blessed.
Yeah, take care
Take
and
care.
great
Bye.
job with this series.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.